The moment I finished reading the phenomenal Turn Back the Pendulum, I was so excited to see what comes next for the Visored. That flashback laid the groundwork perfectly. We got to see how Aizen ruined the lives of these respected Soul Reapers, how he nearly turned them into monsters, and how he took away the dignity and the respect and the trust of their peers. These Soul Reapers were forced to flee their home, go into hiding, and learn to take control of their new powers before they took control of them. That was a century ago, but time doesn't heal all wounds. After learning about all of that, I couldn't wait to see the Visored get some long-awaited retribution on the people that ruined everything. And we're finally here. The Visored arriving as the cavalry when things seem to be at their lowest for our Soul Reapers is such a hype moment, and let's be clear, this hits so hard because of Turn Back the Pendulum. Kubo could have waited to tell that story now, or only reveal it through conversation, but because he gave us an in-depth look prior to this, letting us live in that period for multiple chapters, this moment holds so much more weight because we're caught up to speed and aware of the real history, which many of the Soul Reapers present probably aren't fully aware of. We know that the Visored are not only victims of Aizen's machinations, but are also former colleagues of other people on this battlefield and how they fit into some of those people's lives. It brings so much extra oomph to their appearance and so much potential for these interactions, and Kubo delivers on that in very interesting ways. The Visored aren't really itching to talk to their former peers when they first get there. After being cast out and treated like monsters by the Soul Society, it's not really surprising. It probably feels like these are shadows from a completely different life in some ways, not the friends they used to know. It's been 100 years of this whole concept of the Visored being these renegades who dabbled with hollow powers, so I can't really blame them for not wanting to speak to people that they barely know anymore. The other Soul Reapers are practically strangers at this point. I assume Hachi does want to talk to Tessai though when he says that he doesn't need to talk to anyone in the 13 squads. Since he and Tessai were part of the Kido Corps, I think that's who he's referring to, but I could be wrong. Most of the others don't seem to want to bother, or probably don't feel like it's worth it, or not a priority right now. I mean, it could be some deep-rooted issues obviously with how they've been treated, but maybe they don't think now is the right time for an actual meaningful reunion since we're in the middle of a battle. But there is one Visored member that does apparently want to check on an old colleague, Lisa. I loved the brief little reunion between her and Shunsui. It must be interesting for Shunsui, who always seems to have a good relationship with his lieutenants, where they kind of help keep him in line in the most forceful, funny ways. I liked how even though it was kind of a simple moment, it kind of conveyed a lot, like that nothing had really truly changed between them despite all the time that's passed. And I also really enjoyed Shinji speaking with Yamamoto, which is a very different kind of reunion, one filled with tension between two leaders. We can kind of assume how Yamamoto feels about the Visored, given how unwaveringly dutiful he is toward the laws of Soul Society, but that makes this moment so powerful. He is stunned, maybe even a little worried to see these former captains and lieutenants. He doesn't know how they feel about him. I mean, he probably assumes the worst, just like I do, because they were very badly mistreated. I really loved when he asked if the Visored are their allies, and I love Shinji's response. The Visored are not allies to the Soul Society. They're allies to Ichigo. The look on Yamamoto's face is priceless. I've loved seeing someone as powerful and rigid as him, slowly starting to really see and understand how influential some random human substitute Soul Reaper really is, and the impact he's left on so many completely separate individuals. Here are these people that Yamamoto hasn't seen for a century, and it turns out that they're friends with a guy that Yamamoto didn't have to worry about until less than a year ago? It's great, and I'm glad that the Visored aren't just buddy-buddy with the Soul Society again. There's a lot of trauma and mistrust from what happened, and that can't be fixed immediately. There are more things they'll need to iron out. Having a common enemy is just a possible first step towards a resolution. This whole reunion so far is great. Wonder-wise, I'm back to pronouncing his name correctly now, right? Wonderwise has his monster unleash like a whole swarm of Gillians and, Menos Grande, which is definitely a little unexpected. I love that Kubo keeps finding new ways to ramp up the battle right when you think that we have a chance, and it can't get worse. It absolutely gets worse, because what the hell is that? You know what I mean? Like, wow. I didn't point it out last time, but I love the design of this monster, how there's like Gillian masks incorporated into him, like on his toes. His like toenails are like Gillian masks. It's cool little details like that. And yeah, he's stuffed full of Gillians apparently. I'm curious about the origin of this thing. Is this just an experiment where they combined Gillians together? Well, Gillians are already made up of a bunch of hollows, but if you merge a bunch of Gillians too, I don't know. So yeah, it unleashes this whole swarm of new giant enemies, but that's when the Visored all don their hollow masks, and they look awesome. We've seen a few of these masks before, but the rest have been pretty elusive, and now we get to see them all on full display as they holofy to face the wave of Gillians, and this whole sequence is spectacular. They all get their moments to shine. I particularly loved how badass Hachi was with his way of fighting them, but it's just this great triumphant showcase of how powerful the Visored are. I loved seeing the other Soul Reapers on the battlefield react to this. It's probably shocking for them to see people that used to be so similar to them now show off these entirely different powers. For the people that knew them, it's like, what happened to them? Whereas the people that never knew them are like, what are these guys? They're probably not aware that they were captains. They're probably not aware that they're regular Soul Reapers because they look like hollows, you know what I mean? They haven't usually seen something like this. It's great. Now, for fun, I'm going to rank the Visored masks from my least favorite to favorite based entirely on design alone. I don't dislike any of these, so no one better take it too personally, okay? This is literally just how I feel looking at them on the page. Here's my rank of the masks that no one asked for, but I'm gonna give you anyway because I love me some hollow merch. At number 8, my least favorite is probably Love's. I like the Oni look, but it just doesn't stand out much to me beyond that. I like it though, it's cool. It doesn't really stand out much. 7, I would have Mashiro. It's definitely a unique design and very different from the rest. At first, it's just kind of a bug essentially, but it definitely seems inspired by like the Japanese Sentai superheroes. I forget what they're called. If you're a fan of them, this mask is probably hype, but I'm obviously not a fan since I don't even remember the name. But I know the look. Still, Mashiro is well suited for this mask, though it suits her whole vibe. In 6th place, I have Hiyori's. What I like about this one is that it's one of the ones that looks most likely to be worn by a more traditional hollow. Like, I like how fierce it is and it suits her well, but I really like just how kind of intimidating it is, and I could totally see it being worn by one of my beloved hollows. 5, I have Lisa. And I really like this mask. It reminds me of like a knight or something, like a helm. It's sleeker than most of these masks. It's a little simpler. It doesn't look ferocious. It just looks very knightly, which I like. I think it's a cool look. It's a cool look. And similarly at number 4, Kensei. I really like his mask for similar reasons that I like Lisa's. It's minimalistic, but feels right. In this case, there's something very intimidating about it. It's the lack of any facial features besides the little holes. It reminds me a little bit of like Jason Voorhees in a way. I don't know, it makes Kensei look intimidating, and he has the physical skills and the personality to back that up, it seems. My perception of this mask might be a little tainted from when we first saw him hollowified and he was attacking everyone. So I definitely kind of associate this mask with intimidation, but it's a cool one. It's a cool one. I like it a lot. I went back and forth with number 3 between this one and Kensei's, but I ended up giving this one the edge. Shinji's mask is kind of iconic in my mind, even though we've only really seen it a few times. The first scene when he showed Ichigo that mask is such a memorable and pivotal moment in the series. The first reveal that there are other people like Ichigo. Plus, him putting it on to mess up Grimmjow was amazing back then, and we've seen this mask maybe the most. This one, or Hiyori's, I guess, but this one just feels more memorable. The look itself is cool with like an Egyptian pharaoh kind of aesthetic. I love it. I just love the two above it a little bit more. At number 2, I have Hachi's, because how could I not? Look at this weird, wonderful piece of headgear for our big teddy bear of a guy. I'm not sure what the inspiration for it is. It's giving me Witch Doctor, maybe? I'm not entirely sure, but it's so fantastically jarring on Hachi's face. It's the most striking for a very mild-mannered and gentle-natured wearer, and it reminds me a little bit of my favorite Zelda game, Majora's Mask. It's a great mask. I love it a lot. It stands out in the pack. And at the top, I have Rose, because I have to. I love the Plague Doctor aesthetic, and with the way it links up with his usual well-dressed attire, this is some serious classic Bleach drip. Rose hasn't really done anything to stand out too much yet, but this beak is helping for sure. He just looks really cool and unique among the group, and sometimes that's all you need. It's just a good Plague Doctor look. Anyway, that's my ranking, and yes, there was a little more than just based off the designs. It's also based off my own vibes and preferences, but that is my ranking. Let me know what your favorite Hollow Mask of the Visored is. This is mine. Take it or leave it. They all look great. Very good designs from Kubo. But the Visored aren't just here as reinforcements though. They're here for their own purposes. They're here for revenge against Aizen. Shinji reuniting with his former lieutenant is a big moment. I was shocked in Turn Back the Pendulum that these two had such close relations back in the day. It was unexpected that Shinji used to be Aizen's captain, one of the many great reveals of that flashback, but it was appreciated and gives the scene so much more gravitas. Aizen ruined Shinji's life, and now Shinji finally has a chance to get back at him. He goes straight to Aizen with a smile on his face. Let's end this, tries to take him out, but before Shinji can start to get some revenge, Tozen comes to Aizen's aid. Considering that he played a role in forcing the Visored to originally holify, I could see some of the Visored fighting Tozen as something that could be satisfying. But there's one character that should definitely fight Tozen, and it looks like Komamura is finally going to, and it has the potential to be an incredible and deeply personal payoff. And this needs to happen after the way things left off in the Soul Society arc. And I'm so excited that it's definitely happening now. Komamura immediately points out how he used to defend Tozen, but now he has to protect other people from him, which really puts into perspective the shift in their roles and the shift in this friendship and the broken trust. And just when I think that this fight isn't going to be personal enough, the other squad member that got specifically betrayed by Tozen, our Grim Reaping boy Hisagi, comes to join in. This is what I wanted. The Soul Reapers that were hurt most by the traitors getting their chance to strike back. It'll make for some drama, I'm sure, and I'm here for it. Now let's have Rengiku and Izuru go after Gin. Hitsugaya's talking about going after Aizen, and Momo's around somewhere. So I might get what I wanted, that I've wanted for since the moment the betrayal happened. I wanted these people to all fight, and I think it's finally happening, and I'm so excited. Yeah, it's going to be dramatic, and it's going to be tension-filled and emotional for some of these people, and this is what I want. This is great. There was a little bit more here between Tozen and Hisagi, but I'm going to save that for whenever we get back around to this confrontation, so I can specifically focus more on the elements going into that fight. Suffice to say, I am very excited for all of this. This is what I wanted, and Kubo's just giving it to me. And I'm like, yes. Give me the personal stakes. Give me the vendettas. Meanwhile, Mashiro destroys the big monster that's spawning the Gillians, which was crazy and shows how powerful she is, and Wonderwise probably wasn't very happy about that. This kid scares me, honestly. And I feel like he's going to be a wild card in this next stage of fighting. It may feel like we're putting a dent in Aizen's forces and might be about to take down the rest of the Espada, but I've got an eye on Wonderwise. There's absolutely going to be some big payoff with him, and I think it's more than just summoning this monster to the battlefield. And as we close out, we've seen some of the captains really struggle against the top 3 Espada, but now the Visored are getting more directly involved, coming to help the captains with their individual fights. Lisa and Hiyori join Hitsugaya, and immediately Hitsugaya and Hiyori's interactions are hilarious, while Lisa is, as expected, down to business. Hachi goes to help out against Baragan, and Love and Rose are apparently going to help against Stark. It's all great. So hopefully the addition of the Visored will be enough to help the Soul Reapers take down the Espada for good. But I'm inevitably going to be sad when we lose these antagonists in the story. I've loved the Espada. I hope if this is the end for these three, I hope they all go out in amazing ways. So yeah, that's it. The Visored are back. They're already shifting the battle. We're setting up all these different fights. And I'm waiting for Ichigo to find his way back and join in. But it really feels like we're coming toward the climax of this battle. We just have to get through a few more obstacles, and hopefully we can finally stop Aizen. And I'm hoping when that happens, that the Visored at least get a couple really good shots in on him. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. As always, please comment, like, and subscribe. And if you'd like to support the channel a little bit more, we do have a membership option available here on the channel if you'd like to support. I appreciate you all. I'm excited to read more. I'm going to be diving right into more, so maybe you'll be seeing videos a little bit sooner. We'll see. Take care. Bye-bye.